With 1.4% of marriages ending in divorce, class teachers are often faced with the emotional fallout of breakups which present at school. But can and should teachers be dealing with it? And if so, how? We've gathered a range of teaching staff with pastoral care expertise to discuss some common situations. Educational psychologist Eva Wickham leads the discussion with primary head teacher Sue Newby, primary learning mentor Andy Beagley, and secondary teachers Kenny Wellington and Steph Garner. The panel offer advice on how to deal with 3 dramatised scenarios: dealing with separated parents, sudden disclosures, and pupils' behavioural shifts.
Bye, Dad. See you next week.
Gemma, you're late again. And where is your school uniform?
It's at home.
Look, just get in. Come on.
Why are you late? What's wrong with Dad?
Gemma, I'm going to have to give your parents a call this afternoon and ask them to come in and see me.
No,
okay?
but why?
I think it's for the best. I think we need to discuss what's going on.
We've been through this so many times. The whole problem is that you don't take responsibility.
I do take
I mean, what girl wears the same uniform on as a Monday she did on a Friday, John?
If you got her to me on time on a Friday, then maybe I could get her to school on time on a Monday.
I need to interrupt you. I need to clarify. Are you separated?
Yes.
I'm really sorry to hear that. I do know exactly how you must be feeling.
Well, you're divorced, are you? Sorry,
No, I'm not married.
No, never married. But
what I think would have been helpful is if you had informed the school of the situation.
Why? Why is it anything to do with the school? What happens in our relationship?
Yeah. It has an impact on Gemma.
Well, that's why we're here now.
Yes, but what I'm saying is if you had informed the school of your separation, then we can be aware and we can do something about it.
It's not my intention to upset Gemma. I mean, maybe it's yours, but it's certainly not mine.
The reason we're here is for Gemma.
Look, if you could ensure that Gemma arrives to school on time on a...
It's my fault.
I'm not suggesting that. It's not about blame, but what is important is that whatever your weekend arrangements are, that they don't impact on Gemma's education. Can we agree on that?
Yes, if John can do that, I'm happy.
OK. Thank you both for coming in.
What do you think are the main issues that came out there for the teacher if you were in her shoes in that situation?
I think it's great that she's actually noticed that there's a difference with Gemma, and obviously the uniform is in her face. I'd probably like to go back a couple of steps in terms of how she addresses it to start with. Give Gemma a little bit of confidentiality rather than discussing it in front of the other pupils there. And then also to play it down a little bit. Her voice is rising with the parents.
It was a point-scoring issue, wasn't it, there, with the parents?
What did you feel?
Had no place in
Absolutely. It should have been stopped there and then.
Yeah.
And then maybe each of them invited in separately.
And it's quite interesting that Gemma's at the back of the class.
The pressure is on the teacher because she's aware, she's looking towards Gemma. She can see the expression on her face. She can see the thoughts that are going through the child's mind.
What would you advise her to do if you had an opportunity to talk in her ear?
And probably have some pointers on the desk in front of you and start off with the issue. For the last 3 Mondays running, Gemma's turned up without a uniform. What can we do about that?
Because if you don't have a plan for your meeting, it gets out of control really quickly, doesn't it? And you don't know where you're going.
I think also using the word we. How can we do this? So that you're not putting the parents there and I'm here and I'm sitting here in judgment on you. If the problem was Monday morning and Gemma was with Dad at the weekend,
yes,
I think I would have gone for a phone call asking Dad to come in and can we talk about how we can make sure that Gemma has all she needs on a Monday.
It wouldn't just be one member of staff involved in this either. It needs to be addressed as a school. Either the staff get together or at a briefing with Gemma part of that. And allowing her, even before perhaps you even got the parents in, perhaps sitting down with Gemma and saying, OK, let's have a look. What are the issues on a Monday morning?
Gemma didn't seem to have a voice at all.
If the student or the child is left out in that way, it makes the situation quite difficult for the member of staff talking with the parents, because it makes you partial, doesn't it, if you haven't included the child. The one thing that would make a difference is to get to school on time and have a uniform. If the teacher had managed to keep the focus onto that, on just that little tiny thing, maybe it wouldn't have become so heated as well. There was also something else she said, which I wondered about, which she said, I know exactly how you feel.
it's not empathy as such. You're basically telling them how they feel.
Yes.
You could actually substitute a sentence like clearly there are issues, however, you know, how can we move forwards? You're not taking sides.
And you're not making it personal.
And you're not making a personal
I think
judgment.
that's one of the important things, isn't it, when holding a meeting like that with parents, is you don't bring yourself and your own issues into it, and you basically use active listening skills. It's really important at school to know who has parental responsibility, who the child is living with.
Possibly one of the parents isn't entitled to pick them up because of some problem at home.
Yes.
So that
if there are injunctions or orders or whatever of that sort of thing.
That goes back to the whole school being aware of this, and particularly your office staff, because often they'll go there and say, I'm here for such and such, and it needs to be flagged up.
The next stage would be actually to get the school together with a policy statement on how do we deal with all of these kind of things.
Absolutely.
I saw red, blue and gold. Can I tell your name? No, Rosie, go away! Rosie, do you want to play with me? No, I don't want to. Hey, Rosie don't want to play!
Oh, well maybe she just wants to sit by herself. Sometimes we do, don't we? Yeah? Okay, go and play, don't worry. So, is anyone doing anything exciting this weekend? Yes?
I'm getting a new daddy.
All right. Okay, is anyone else doing anything interesting? Yes?
Well, that was a tricky situation. Sudden disclosure of something dramatic like that in circle time.
You've asked someone if they've got something to say, they've said something, at least you can do is acknowledge to some extent and then move on, and with a young child. And as later shown, she was quite withdrawn, so there's certainly an issue somewhere that needs to be addressed. But just to sort of, is he a nice person? Oh, lovely, lucky you. The next week or so, the new father may be turning up with the child. She's opened that up to the whole class, who then would go, is this your new dad? You know, rather than turning up as someone unannounced.
So it's an introduction.
The teachers then got a surprise. Who's this person bringing this child into the school?
What about how the other kids might react?
There's likely to be some shared empathy. We do have a buddy situation, but sometimes it's that information they have, they can't keep it confidential. It's like a gossip situation, and it's used in the other way. So instead of them being supportive, you know, at the junior school, sometimes it can be divisive, and they're wanting to keep that information to themselves, so they wouldn't want that member of staff to broadcast it as such. There's also just managing those people that they may be sitting with or discussing it to make sure that they're not going to divulge that to other pupils or use it for their own gain.
Aside from a disclosure in circle time, you'd be watching for the child whose behaviours change or maybe who's clingy. So now what we're going to see is another version where the teacher has a slightly better interpretation of the situation.
Hi, Rosie. You all right? You're sitting here all on your own, aren't you? I'll tell you what, why don't you come round the playground with me? You can hold my hand. Yeah? Yeah? Good girl. So, is anyone doing anything exciting this weekend? Yes?
I'm getting a new daddy.
Right, okay. I think we probably know quite a few people who've got new daddies, don't we? Yes. Well, I tell you what, I think perhaps we should talk about that later, okay? Why don't we play a game now of I feel happy when and I feel sad when? Shall we do that?
Quite often children at whatever age, when their parents break up, they have fears or fantasies that somehow they themselves have done something to contribute to the parental breakup. And it's quite a useful reminder to them at some point, at the right moment, to say, actually, it's not anything you did, it's not your fault. Grown-ups have difficulties and it's not because of you.
Hello?
Hello, love.
Hammer.
Look, I'm really sorry, I forgot to say, I'm meeting up with Mark tonight, so you're on your own again. But your dinner's in the fridge. I won't be too late, all right?
Yep. What time do you call this?
I woke up late.
What do you mean you woke up late? Your attitude stinks. Do you hear me? I suppose you haven't done your homework either. Homework. Pick that book up now.
Say sorry or something.
What?
Just dash
Sit down! Harry, I am speaking to you. Pick that book up.
No, are
you... No, I'm not leaving. You just dashed the book at me.
David, you say sorry.
Harry, take your book and get out of this classroom now! Harry? What's wrong?
Nothing.
Listen, if there's anything wrong, if there's something bothering you, you know, we can talk about it. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone.
No, it's okay.
What do you think the main issue there was?
You've got someone clearly upset. By continually shouting is not going to help, particularly if that's the last thing that Harry's had at the weekend. Approaching it much more calmly, acknowledging it. Very important to acknowledge that there's something there, and to get him online and thank him for the homework.
Yes.
He needed some time just to count to 10, basically, and it was straight into his face.
It looked in that situation as if the teacher had completely forgotten anything he ever had learnt about positive behaviour management. So he fueled the situation straight away, didn't he?
He just gave him nowhere to go at all.
And there was the situation of managing the other students as well.
Everybody was shouting at one person, rather than trying to bring the other two away from it, to sort of take the fire off of those two and then deal with him.
Do we think that teacher was the right teacher to then go off and say, shall we have a one-to-one conversation about this afterwards?
I would have said that would have been okay had the teacher acknowledged that they had initially made the mistake. Obviously Harry had done his homework and he was ready to show the teacher.
Right.
And obviously the use of language, I suppose you haven't done your homework, immediately put it into the negative context.
He also said that whatever Harry had said to him would be, you know, kept between them. It's a very dangerous thing to go. You cannot.
You can't do that.
Sometime in the future to talk to him would be
a good idea.
A good idea rather than now, because when the temperatures come down a bit, and there could be a sort of catch-all phrase, I can see you're having a hard time, or something like that would be fine, open-ended, just to reflect that there's something not right in the youngster's life, and we can chat about this later.
What I'd like you to do is just settle down, get your books out and carry on with the lesson.
Press on, be focused.
School is the place where things are always the same. Where if you're going to get into trouble for something, you'll get into trouble for it, whether or not your family's in chaos or it's the nicest family in the universe. And I think that's something that we need to take on board as teachers, and so that whatever's going on at home, school feels like a safer place.
The other side of that is we do offer and facilitate counselling.
We don't have the facility really of as you would in a large secondary school, of having people on site who are counsellors. So we work with people like Relate and the Family Mediation Service, bringing them in to help.
School is a stable, safe place for children, and teachers can do so much to keep it that way. It's really important for there to be good communication between home and school, isn't there? And really to keep the focus on the things that the child can do well in school, his work, showing up on time, looking right, and giving him support or her support as and when he needs it, and respecting his confidences as well.